Welcome to Outa Space, International Arts and Class Struggle Podcast.
From punk to choir, the power of song. An interview with Bruno Coffineau. Hello, I'm Rob MacDonald and I am your host for Outer Space International Arts and Class Struggle podcast. This podcast is part of a series of podcasts that we are doing related to the historical memory of the Spanish Civil War, particularly the Solidarity Park project. So we're going to be talking to lots of artists involved in that project. What are their reasons to be involved? How do they see the fight against fascism and the far right today? But also their general political outlook, and touching on many of the questions that the podcast normally talks about. We're also going to make a bit of investigation into the role of women in the struggle for the historical memory today, the recuperation of the memory. We'd also like to thank the Diputació de Barcelona and Amicel, the International Brigadistas Association in Catalonia, for their support in this project. Okay, let's go to the podcast. Well, hello, and today I'm joined by Bruno, and I'm going to say his name wrong, probably, Coffineau. Is that more or less right, Bruno?
It's perfect.
Very good. Well, Bruno is a leader of the choir from Toulouse. Again, I won't try and attempt the name. I'll let you explain that in a moment. Who is involved in the Solidarity Park project, who are planning to come to next May's festival. As I also understand it, you're a composer and a musician and a singer as well. Is that correct? So, I mean, that's who I think you are, more or less. Maybe you could give me a little bit more information.
Yeah, I might give you some clue. Yeah.
Why not?
Well, the choir is called Le Cri du Choeur, and it's a game on.
Let me try.
Le
Cri du Choeur. I'm very sorry for French lovers. Yeah. What's the literal translation in English?
It's a game on the words because it means it's in France when you're surprised and you express like sudden surprise, like oh, it's called le cri du cœur, the cry of the heart, el grito del corazón. And so I made it into le cri du cœur, the choir.
Okay,
because I think choirs should shout more.
Yeah. No, that's
a lot of things.
Well, so I mean, tell us a little bit more about you, and then we'll go into the choir. And because that's
exactly, yeah. But that's a good introduction because I have a classical musical background. I used to play as a clarinet in musical fields and all. But when I was 15, I discovered Sex Pistols and all the punk movement, and so I became quite involved in the punk era, and I had this totally crazy time when I would play gigs with my guitar and screaming "ah!" And then the other day I was with my hair down and but I did like both. But I think I kept that dynamic of the cry of shouting and saying when you don't agree.
Yeah, so you kept the fire of punk, but
exactly. So I'm from a small town in France called Poitiers, near La Rochelle, near the west coast. And then when I was 18, I moved to London because I wanted to play the guitar and I wanted to play gigs. I only went busking for a while. But I learned a bit of English and I came back to France because it was too harsh. And I went to Paris. And in Paris, it was not the moment to play rock and roll music, because all the bars would allow only acoustic sets, unplugged sets. So that's when Paris rediscovered the chanson française, and everybody would go around with accordions and guitars and playing Piaf, Brel, and Georges Brassens songs. So that was another part of my classical music, then punk music, then chanson française. And then I had the opportunity to move to Barcelona. I arrived there at the end of the 90s, just when our French-Spanish composer Manu Chao just got Clandestino out. So I knew all the musicians and all the movements, La Movida, that were there. And I remained 10 years in Barcelona and singing mostly in groups. So that's when I really started thinking that singing together, collective singing, was really a force. And when I started doing like stuff like this, we would gather and sing songs from, I'd say, all over the world, because I've always been interested in trips, in journeys all around the world. And I think it's very important to know the other cultures and civilization, to accept them. And so it was for me very interesting to sing songs from all over the world with the context, because a lot of people do sing songs from all over the world but not knowing what they actually sing. Yeah. So let's say, well, it was quite interesting, because in Barcelona I would hang out with Catalans, with Spanish people, with English, British people, with Germans, Croatians, whatever. So everybody coming from lots of parts of the world, not mentioning Argentinians and Chileans and all. So singing songs from all over the world was like a means of having everybody sing, but not knowing what they were uttering. And so if you sing just like, it's like just musicality, which was what interested me. And then we were, it was quite a good time back then. Ocupats, centros sociales. So we would sing in many of these places, demonstrations, and but it was like let's say it was a small thing. I didn't want to make it big. It was just like for leisure, and it was okay like that. Yeah. And then the crisis took me back to France.
Yes.
And I didn't know
that's when I arrived in Barcelona. Just in time for the crisis.
Good. So I established myself in Toulouse, because it was quite close to Barcelona. Yeah. And when I was in Barcelona, well, I have many friends, and I got really interested then in the Civil War, in the Spanish War, because a lot of my friends were Catalans. A lot of my friends had grandparents and all that were involved in that. Of course, I read Homage to Catalonia, and it was like I read all things about the PUM and the Ebro, and that's when I started getting really interested in songs from that era, but not knowing really what I wanted to do with that. And then
just to unpack that a little bit, because there's a nice evolution there. I like the basically from punk to choir route, and somewhere the same energy, maybe. I mean, before I go into some of the things you mentioned there, just tell us a little bit more about the choir in Toulouse. What kind of stuff do you do? I mean, you've given us a little bit of a run up to it, but I'm kind of interested in the choir itself, how it operates today, how many people are in it, what kind of songs do you sing then?
Yeah, well, actually, it's exactly at the point I was coming to, because when I arrived in Toulouse, I just set the choir. And so I wanted to sing with a lot of people because I would do that in Barcelona. I didn't know what to do for a living in France. And I got people together. At the beginning, it was just 20 people, then 30s and 50s, and a lot of people. But we split the association in two, and I remained with the choir. We are 45, 50 men and women. And the essential idea was I'm looking for my words because I've got all the slogans in French, but it was le cri du choeur, le chant à la portée de tous, in everybody's reach, meaning that we didn't want to no limitations of age, no limitations of culture, of course, and of money too. So we had a lot different prices according to the income of the people. I wanted that really clear, and the other thing is we didn't need to read music, because that's why I did a lot of songs from all around the world, traditional songs, because it's oral transmission, just that. And so that's how it all started. I mean, I just went bam, 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 bam. I sing the songs and people repeat. I've been to Africa, I've been to Cambodia, I've been to Argentina, and in all of these places, when I went and learned at my time, learn the songs, it was all oral. So I do write music, I do write the scores and all, but I don't use them when I there is nothing written. It's just
this is very interesting for me. Very interesting for me. We'll go into this a little bit maybe, because I just give you a bit of my background with choirs, which was virtually nothing. I was kind of not anti, but I was like, yeah, choirs, it's a bit, not for me, And then what happened? The Solidarity Park project happened, and when the ship was sinking in Ciudad de Barcelona with the international brigades aboard, the story of them singing the Internationale as the ship went down. When I read that, I was like fairly blown away. And of course, the other link to that is one of the guys on the boat had the same name as me, and I was like sitting in front of the computer thinking, what? And I've sang that song many times at events and demonstrations, and it always meant something to me as a young man. And and I have a different route to the Spanish Civil War, but I always thought that was a battle worth fighting, that kind of thing. And I'm anti-war, but I'm pro that struggle. So I was of that mind, and I came to this story, and I was like, wow, these guys, they were singing. That's the last thing they did, and it really hit me. And then I was doing a similar project to Solidarity Park in Sweden, excuse me, and I was in Gothenburg, and it happened to be, I think, the Youth European Championship of Choirs or something. And I was like, what? It was part of the same arts festival that I was in. I was like, yeah, that sounds... And there were young people everywhere. And I was thinking, I'm going to go into one of these. And I went in, and I was like, oh, yeah. And it got me, and the idea is... Yeah. And then I just put, the two and two together, choirs singing in the Solidarity Park Festival has to be a central thing, it has to be part of what we're doing. But then I also, even though I'm shy at singing, I've played music, I'm a drummer, and I love poetry, and I love words, and I love bands and punk stuff and all that. I got all that in common with you. But the actual idea of singing something that's a bit, I don't know, it came across in my mind a bit posh, a bit not really my thing. Yeah. But it's quite clear to me now that I've changed my mind on that, and I'm meeting lots of people in choirs, and there's so many radical choirs. I'm just starting to uncover just how many there are. And this idea that singing is part of the workers' and labour movement struggle, and always has been, and it's why they sang as they sank. And you're talking about going all around the world and that internationalism. And for me, that's super powerful stuff. And I'm kind of interested in what you think about the power, the actual power of singing. What is it about that? You can have a musical instrument to keep you in time, I suppose, or a bit of accompaniment, but it's about the voice, eh? What do you think about that? Do you think there's anything particularly special about the process?
going back, like making the link with what I was saying before, that oral transmission, I think that singing together is ancestral. I mean, it's back to prehistoric times. And I would think too, I remember I went to an exhibition, I don't know why, not important, but it was all on words, on singing, and people would come and say things to your ears and all. And there was a cave, like it was all in the dark, and we would get in and people would start chanting. And it was like a trance. And I said, of course. I mean, before even fire was established, I mean, people would sing together to just not be afraid. And so I think it's a very important part of the community and its basis. That's one thing that I think that singing together is so powerful. And people, it's like dancing. I'm very interested in traditional dancing right now for another project. And initially, all the traditional dancing would be in circles. And I think that singing was in circles too before, because there is no hierarchy. Everybody sings the same place in a circle. You sing for the community and not for a show, not for an audience. And that's really powerful. And what I really like about it, and that I don't like in classical choirs, is that you can sing what you want, when you want, and you don't feel compelled to sing high if you don't want to sing high, or to sing down if you don't want to sing low. And it's very free in a sense. And what I like, I always talk about my music and choir singing like stained glass. It's a lot of little bits. Like alone, it's not very boof, and you put them together, and you end up like mosaic. Like you end up doing something artistic out of everybody's little thing. And I really like the thought of it, because choir singing, you don't need no money, you don't need no instrument, you just need to sing in key. But after a while, I mean, after 2 or 3 years of singing with people, you just can do it. And out of the mass of the people, you just make something like a head with no hierarchy, and you make something artistical. And for me, it's really, because I do believe that art is part of our of mankind and part of our behavior, and that and having people come together to do something artistic just using their voice, for me, it's a gift. It's a gift for me. It's a gift for them, and that's the power comes from here.
No, I agree.
From the making together.
I mean, it fits very well with the Solidarity Park project, because for me, when I came to the idea of building a stone monument, and stone is cold and hard, and the first thing was like, how do we make this participatory? How do we get people involved? What's the collective nature of this? Because we're celebrating, international brigaders who came to fight in a war, and they were fighting for solidarity. They were fighting for communities that they left. One of the things when I speak to some of the students in the schools, when we do outreach in the schools with the project, and I say, why do you think they came? And they didn't come on tourism. They didn't speak the language, and it's like, to explain to them that they came for the same social reasons as they were fighting for in Spain was important. And that for me is this idea of the collective thing, and singing and in general, but actually choir singing that brings people together and participates is it's a political act in that sense. And I think that's why it's so important. I mean, when I think of singing collectively, I think as a young guy, when I could afford to go to football, even the songs you were singing might be pretty bad in many ways that I wouldn't sing now. But the actual camaraderie of singing with a lot of voice, and also demonstrations, when people are chanting, it's a different thing. And I had this idea of monks chanting. It is very much part of our culture. So this thing that you finished on there, that art is being human being is artistic. It's a natural thing for us to do, which in the capitalist society we lose, quite often. I mean, what do you think? With the choir, do you think that people come and join it because they're looking for that, or do they come for different reasons? I mean, your particular choir, because you sing political struggle songs, not just those, I imagine, but if you're singing those, that attracts a certain layer of people, does it? I mean, what's your connection with local struggles or local political things? Do you have any connection, or is the choir its own political energy?
I would rather define the work we do as social more than political. I'm political,
Yeah.
but we tend to, for example, in the beginning we would sing at demonstrations. We no longer do that because there's no point. There's so much noise, and you get exhausted, and it's not really, for me, really important. But but for example, first thing for the choir members, we do travel. I mean, as we sing a song from all over the world, I want to take them to the places where not just like, oh, that thing like that. So we went to Romania, we went to Bulgaria, we went to Georgia, we went to Spain. And each time we would go to families and local artists. And it was really, really interesting. I mean, this is having a knowledge of other people through singing is just like wonderful. And in the same time, we would organize events in France, having them come to France. So when all the Romanians came to France, it was just wonderful. I mean, it was just an exchange, but more social than political, I'd say. And
that is very much part of what the Solidarity Park project is trying to do. I mean, we're trying to connect the choirs together, and we talk. Exactly. We use this language of uniting the local with the international again, because it was on a local event, if you like, in a big civil war which was central to the whole world at that moment, and it was local fishermen that went out to save the brigadistas. And then this whole mad whole big historical event with all these international people on their beach. And so our idea was to try and to connect locally with the international again. And it sounds very much what you were talking about. And I mean, it's political maybe with a small p, hey? And I think it's social, political reaction, because when you've got people coming together, you're starting to bridge the gaps of, nationalism and these kind of questions. So, yeah, I mean, I agree, it's social work in that regard, but it's of a political element, eh?
And the thing we did just before everything arrived, the COVID stuff, because we were singing so many songs from all over the world. Well, first one project is Unisson, songs from struggle songs from all over the world. So we had a show with scenography and all. It was really so we would have songs from all over the world. And the other thing we did the year after is that I would look at my choir, and basically we are all white. I mean, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I said, we sing songs from Africa, from Latin America, from Asia, and it's not. I want something more genuine, I'd say. And so I decided to do it the other way around. And so I chose songs from Europe, but then all of Europe. Poland, Ireland, Portugal. So it would still be like foreign languages for us. And we went to work with migrants who would come to Toulouse in centers. And I would go there and have singing workshops with the migrants. And they took part in the show. So it was so amazing. And because we had the chorus members came with me at the rehearsals, and so the kind of communication and all, so all went down because of the COVID thing, but it's something I really want to do, because I think it's integration through singing and not through French songs, which is not very interesting for me because I'm not paid by the government to do some French teaching. And I think that many people, when they come to French ground, well, they might go to Germany tomorrow or whatever. So I wanted to have a vision of what European culture could be as a whole.
I mean, I think it's an important point, especially when we're talking about anti-fascism. And we're also talking here about the power of culture and what role should we play as artists. And I think we should be activists, just like everybody else should be. But we should be out there doing the donkey work, as it were, and the organising and those kind of things. But there's also art is a different thing. We can use our working skill, if you like, and the power of culture to bring things together and to unify people on quite a deep level. I mean, it's not, you have to have political agreements on many things, but actually when you've got cultural agreements and cultural integration with people, that's actually, it's got a real power that I don't think that many people always grasp. I've always got the opinion that artists need to the workers' organisations need to have more artists in them, and the artists, because there's a lack of that, and more of everybody actually. But they're very sort of often dull meetings that are not interesting and that kind of thing, and vice versa. I think artists need the discipline, if you like, or want of another word, of the workers' movement and the struggle. And I think the fusing of those things is again a little bit what Solidarity Park is about, and it seems to be that what you're working towards. Maybe the final question I'd just like to sort of touch with you on is the Spanish Civil War itself, because you mentioned it before, and you do sing some of the Spanish Civil War songs, and Solidarity Park's other wing, if you like, not just anti-fascism today or arts and culture, and this is the historical memory. And it strikes me that that might be a very interesting thing in Toulouse, because you're quite close. I've driven many times through Toulouse or around your ring road. I know that very well. I don't know very much inside Toulouse, but singing. You talk about singing songs from all around the world, but Spain's not so far away from you, hey? In Toulouse, and does it have an extra meaning for you, or is it just they're just really good songs, or what's the reason why you would encapsulate those songs?
Well, it has more extra meanings. First of all, because I did live in Barcelona for over 10 years, so it's part of. I love Barcelona. I love its history. So, of course, the Civil War moment in Barcelona was very important to me. And then Toulouse was the capital of the Republican Spain when it all came down. So in Spain, in Toulouse, there is a huge thing about the retirada. And so every year there are commemorations. There are many Spanish families. Like in our choir, 5 have a Spanish family name, and 3 are direct heirs to Republicans. So of course, yes, it's and 1 is Catalan.
Okay, so really, you're part of us, really.
and something else is we were talking about foreign languages, and when you live in Strasbourg, everybody speaks German, and in Toulouse, nobody speaks German. So all the children here do learn Spanish. So French people just speak foreign languages really badly. It's very bad. But
as bad as English, actually, maybe.
Yeah.
No, maybe not that bad.
Spanish is kind of easier for French people and more difficult for English people.
Yeah, no, it's an interesting thing. I mean, I know that you sing often in foreign languages, and there is a question of being English and the imperialism that infects me in terms of language, and the fact that the whole world speaks English, I don't need to learn that. And the only other place in the world I've ever really found that was France. And I remember when I first went to France, there was a percentage on the radio that had to be French singing, and I've heard all sorts of French songs equivalents. But it's a way of breaking some of that down as well. And Well,
the only two songs we sing in English is Bread and Roses, so protest song, and The Foggy Dew on the Irish Civil War. So
two very good songs. Well, listen, Bruno, it's been really interesting to touch base with you, get to know you a little bit. Really looking forward to you coming in May, COVID allowing, of course, bringing the choir down.
We will.
And joining us and being part of the family that Solidarity Park is trying to build, not just between the different artists and the families of the brigadistas, of the local people, but for me, the role that you and the other choirs are playing in the first, if you like, the first baby steps of this festival is really important. So a big thank you to you, and we'll get you back on the show at a later stage, and we'll get a bit deeper into this choir and punk business, I think, because I think there's something to be said there. I've got this imagination now of really sort of fuck off sort of choir singing sort of thing. That's what's in my head anyway. The visual on the poster for the show is a fist with a tuning fork. Okay, yeah, that sounds about right to me.
The power of
the power of music, eh? Okay,
exactly.
Bruno, thanks very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming on the show, and we'll speak to you again soon. Bye now.
Yeah, looking forward to being there. Bye.
We hope you enjoyed the show. If you have something to say to us, then join our Facebook group or contact us at outaspace.com. That's outa-space.com. See you soon.